Alright, so we are back for part 2, covering AEW Wrestledream. We last finished off talking about the great match that was Swerve versus Hangman. Both of us very interested to see where both men go from here. But moving on to our next match of the night, Ricky Starks versus Wheeler Yuta, which, no offense to both guys, but is very clearly a cool-off match on this card.
A cool-off match, but, there's a lot of the same story elements that we just saw, right? Two guys trying to make a name for themselves, trying to stand out, right? I think Swerve and Hangman did it better, but here we are. It's like, grudge match. It's just fighting for fighting's sake. And as an added bonus, we get a special guest on commentary for this one.
We get John Moxley back on commentary.
And I feel like he's hurt, but we really got our money's worth for him, right? Because he joined us for these two matches, and spoiler alert, the next match.
Yeah, so he's on commentary. He's an absolute joy as he's just saying a bunch of funny stuff on commentary. This is his first appearance on the main card, I think, because he appeared during the pre-show, and I think it's here where he comes back on and they ask him, what are your thoughts going into this match? And he goes, well, I got in trouble for some of the stuff I said on the pre-show, so I can't really give you my true thoughts.
This I saw online that people wondered, that was it's on YouTube, the pre-show, so YouTube probably got him in trouble for the things he was saying. And I love how he tries to mitigate that by covering his mic, but you can still clearly hear him yelling, mess him up, but he doesn't say mess him up. He could really clearly be picked up on the feed.
Yeah, there was even one point where he took the headset off and moved himself away, and it just picked up on the other commentary mic, and it's oh man, can't catch a break. But
there were times too where he's yelling at Yuta to do stuff, and I feel like Yuta did him. I wonder if he heard him and was actually following instructions. He's in the corner, he says, "Get your hands up," and he literally got his hands up.
Yeah, very funny stuff. As far as the match itself, I enjoyed it. For the most part, they were a cool down match, but also at the same time they were doing their best to make sure that they didn't cool off the crowd completely. They still did stuff to keep them, invested and hyped. Can't remember too many spots in this match, but overall, I just thought it was pretty good showcase for the two guys. And again, it's two guys I'm interested to see where they go from here, because Ricky, he's coming off a lot of that momentum with feuding with Danielson, so it's interesting to see what they do with him.
Yeah. And he picks up this win, right, against Yuta. There's a spot where Big Bill comes out to help him. And the commentary tell Moxley, it looks like Big Bill was a big factor in this match. And John Moxley is making fun of him, going, how so? He just got pushed into that ring post.
Oh, man.
Pretty good.
But, Ricky comes out on top. Good to see there.
Yep.
Good to see that they're keeping up with that momentum for him. And like I said, I'm very interested to see, where he goes from here, because, he was lucky that or I don't know if lucky is the right word, but he's likely very grateful that Danielson came in, helped him out in a tough situation, helped him gain a lot of momentum. So just be interesting to see what they do with him from here on out. Especially,
I was very surprised to see his entrance. It had fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
And not everyone got those, right? So, evidence, too, that he's getting a lot of support with his presentation.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll see.
Yeah. Moving on to our next match. It's the dream match of the night. It is Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. And, sir, the only question I want to ask you is, did it live up to everything you wanted it to be?
This is my Swerve versus Hangman Jack. This is my take all my money. And when I watched Danielson versus Okada in June, the second that match started, 2 seconds into that match, I thought, oh no, they're entirely different styles. This isn't going to be the dream match I thought we were going to get. This one, Jack, is definitely the dream match I thought we were going to get. Oh, did it live up to the expectations? Oh, it ticked all the boxes. It hit all the dopamine sensors.
Yeah. Adding on to this, obviously, Mox is still on commentary, but then I really love the contrast of Mox being Danielson's hype man and Nigel McGuinness being Bryan Danielson's biggest hater.
I picked up on that, Jack, at All In. And I was going to bring it up. I don't know if I brought it up. But here, I think it was even more heavy-handed. And I almost expected him to get up and challenge him after this match.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it because he's been calling him out a ton on commentary, calling him a coward, calling him fragile and all that.
Yeah. Oh, and then, he's basically, just like Moxley was yelling instructions at Yuta, Nigel was practically yelling at Zack to go for the arm, the right arm, the one with the bolt in it. Yeah,
and to really show how invested, especially towards the end, how invested both men really were, and it makes me smile a bit that despite him trying to play up, this hatred for Danielson, you could you see a little bit under that mask where you can tell Nigel's genuinely excited for his friend, watching him wrestle, because there's a point in the match, we don't see it because they're on commentary, but people in the arena were showing pictures where at one point in the match, both men were standing from their seats commentating the match.
Yes.
Yeah, so both men obviously were really invested in this match, and there was a lot to love from it.
Yeah, no, this was and you know what's funny? I thought about just how much fun that must have been for Danielson to be in there with somebody who can do as much as Zack Sabre Jr. We never seen this. We've never seen anybody, maybe Drew Gulak, right? Just be able to hang with him so much. And he's trying to put him in. Danielson was putting him in things, and he was getting out of them so quickly compared to everyone else we've seen him fight before. And what does he do in that moment? He sticks to the thing that differentiates them, is striking. Zack Sabre Jr. ain't got no striking game. And that's, his kicks. That's, I think, what puts him over the edge.
Yeah. Real great stuff. I'm trying to remember some of my favorite spots from it. I will say it's not, from the match, it obviously came afterwards, but I do like a lot of people would look at the loss and try and make something of it, but there's Zack Sabre Jr. who despite taking a loss will always find a way to still make himself come out on top. So there was a post-match interview or whatever backstage, and he's faulting Bryan Danielson for using the knee to win the game, or the match. He's faulting him for using the knee, and it makes me think back to Forbidden Door when he faced Claudio, and he was like, "Oh, you just had to give me a surprise opponent instead of facing me yourself." So it's it's this continuous thing where he's just finding a fault in every sort of win, and finding a reason for him to keep going after a loss, where now this time it's not only the knee, but he's how about you come to Japan or England to face me? So now it's it leaves the fans questioning, Wrestle Kingdom or All In next year, which one is it?
Nigel McGuinness, that's what it is, because he's on commentary doing the same work, going, hey, he just proved who the best wrestler is. It's Zack Sabre Jr. because he could not wrestle him. Needed to go with that knee strike. Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. But, yeah, I just really loved,
I tell you what, too, though, Jack. I like this match. Just like I knocked that Hangman match for that spot where he's punching the floor, I'm going to knock just the tiniest chip of the corner of that star for the fact that Zack Sabre Jr. didn't win. I would have... Oh, well, why not? Why not, Jack? Can we just make a guy? Can we make him? Please?
Yeah, I feel that, especially because if they want to do a match at Wrestle Kingdom or well, I fully believe that All In next year should be Danielson versus McGuinness. So if you want to do it at Wrestle Kingdom, I think it would have been a better option to have Danielson lose and kind of have to train himself to beat like Zack Sabre Jr. Especially because you could tell this interesting story where for the longest time Danielson was regarded as the best technical wrestler on the planet, and he's now met his match. So he finally realizes that hey, there's someone that matches me. I need to train to, beat this guy. It gives him that motivation to beat the guy,
Yeah. And it's funny with all that commentary stuff, right? We got our Zack Sabre Jr. match, and it's so funny how the carrot is still dangling. There's always another match we want.
Yeah, definitely.
But you know what? I wanted Zack Sabre Jr. to win. It would have been incredible, Jack. Absolutely incredible for Zack Sabre Jr. to have beat him, go back to Japan, and rub it in Okada's face that he did something Okada couldn't. And I think that would have been... there's only positives, Jack.
Oh, man. That would have been absolutely hilarious to see.
But this was an incredible match. On my list, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on to our next match of the night, the Don Callis family is Sammy Guevara, the new member, Konosuke Takeshita, and Will Ospreay versus Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and Kota Ibushi.
I found it interesting, Jack, that during the Don Callis family entrance, I love that song, that non-song. It's just a deep guttural growl, right? Hum.
Yeah.
He's in the Last Supper painting. He's Jesus, and he's got 3 disciples, and there's lots of disciples in that painting with no faces, and I think it just creates an opportunity to develop a bigger family, which I'm not immediately against.
Yeah, I feel the same way where because it was actually that sort of thinking that sparked me to ask my dad the question. I'm like, what do you think is when a faction gets too big, or it becomes too big for its own good, But a part of me feels especially seeing that Will Ospreay is technically part of the family, even though he's not in AEW, it could open the door for multiple people to be in this faction, just not under one company, So that way it never seems like it's overcrowded, because it's you could have different people from Japan join it and, be a part of it as a subsection. Have people in Mexico even, if Don Callis still has ties there.
I wonder if Dave Finlay even remembers that Chris Bay and Ace, what's his name, are members of the Bullet Club.
Oh, very true.
I wonder if he even remembers.
Oh man, someone should ask him that.
Yeah. Who? And they're watching and they're like, "Aw." What'd you think of this match, Jack?
I thought it was pretty good for what it was. I wasn't too interested in it. Especially because again, it's that thing of I don't know, I don't it's a mix of things. The biggest one, I don't really care about the Jericho Guevara story. I've said it multiple times on this podcast. The only pillars I'm really interested in when it comes to AEW are Darby Allin and MJF. I don't really care about Jungle Boy or Sammy Guevara too much, so it's I'm not really invested in the storyline with there. Ospreay and Omega having interactions, obviously, will always be good. Takeshita and Ibushi interactions were great. I wish that one was a singles match, but my gut feeling tells me the way New Japan was cautious with Shibata, AEW is very cautious with Ibushi, and likely don't feel comfortable putting him in singles matches just yet. But my biggest thing is Takeshita was supposed to be the main focus of Don Callis, but now Ospreay's involved, and now Sammy's involved, and it's even worse for Sammy because he was supposed to be getting out of Chris Jericho's shadow, and now in this match he's the 6th most important guy in the match.
Dang, goodness gracious, Jack, my laptop's overheating with that hot take.
I mean, I don't know. It's like when you look at it, it's like I think the biggest thing that people care about from this match is obviously Takeshita. You know,
Yeah,
with his whole story with Omega and now Ibushi, and
yeah,
obviously people are gonna care about Ospreay no matter what. But it's like I don't know. Ospreay's inclusion seemed kind of random to me. It's like other than obviously the story he has with Omega and obviously Jericho from All In, it's still like I don't know. Like especially that since we just had that like Elite versus like Will no not Will Ospreay. Who was in that match against the Elite at All In? I know Takeshita was involved.
um, it was not the BCC.
No, see, I don't know why I'm struggling to remember. Oh, it was Bullet Club Gold.
Bullet Club Gold,
Yeah,
right?
so it's like we just saw that big multi-man match, and now they're
Yeah,
doing this one to like include the different stories. But like a part of me is just like, I don't really care to see a lot of it. Like I thought the match was good, but you know, it's like I don't know. I'm most interested in Takeshita from this whole storyline, and it feels like he's playing second fiddle to a lot of it all. You know?
yeah. Somebody I think at school asked me if, a coworker asked me if Jay Uso, to go to the WWE for an analogy, was going to join the Judgment Day. And I said, I don't think it behooves Jey Uso to leave one group to be a part of another group. And it's very funny, Jack, how you exactly described Sammy Guevara's situation. He literally left one group to join another. I think, like, Chris Jericho describing him as Judas, because that's his song, is very heavy-handed and corny. And it reminds me of something I think Conan said in a quote. Like, he was talking about Proud and Powerful and how their alignment with Jericho did nothing for them, which one can definitely argue because they never won the tag titles. And think about all those guys, Jack. There were two groups, the Inner Circle and now the Jericho Appreciation Society. Both have dissolved, and none of them have anything to show for it. You know, they didn't get any better. They didn't get any higher. And Sammy is the one that's going to come out in the best situation, and the best situation is now he's with Don Callis.
Yeah, I think about it, and like it was always my biggest gripe with Jericho's factions, and people always tried to argue otherwise. But like Proud and Powerful, we saw Jericho and Guevara get opportunities for the tag title over Proud and Powerful. You know, we
Yeah.
saw Jericho and MJF teaming together get more opportunities. You know, and then you look at the Jericho Appreciation Society. Daniel Garcia got super hot during that feud with the BCC. Everyone thinking he was going to join. He stays by Chris Jericho's side. What does everyone keep saying? Oh, the payoff's going to be worth it when he turns on Jericho. Where's it at?
Goodness.
That ended up going to Sammy, and Sammy, like, I don't know, it's like people didn't really care too much. Like, a lot of people were just like, oh, okay, you know. And again, the main thing that like made a lot of people not care is, oh, he's joining another faction where he's not the most important guy or like focus of it. Now, it's up to AEW to like do that, but you know, in my case, it's like if I don't already have any interest in the guy, I don't think throwing him into the Don Callis family where my main focus is on Takeshita is gonna help the guy out.
Takeshita was very good in this match. One spot in particular, I don't know what you call it, like corkscrew European uppercut Cesaro used to do.
Yeah.
Takeshita hit one of those. That was great. Oh, the deadlift German suplex on Jericho. That was great.
Yeah, that was some real great stuff.
Kota Ibushi doing that Undertaker thing he insists on doing, even though canonically it makes no sense. That was a hoot.
Yeah. We see like different Ibushi and Omega moments, and like it's one of those things where they just like keep teasing the fans of like, oh look, they're interacting and doing stuff together, but it's like you never see more of it throughout the match. You know, like they do like maybe one or two spots, but that's about it. And it's like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's like you hear like you see Ibushi saying like he wants to do a tag run with like Omega, but then it's like, I don't know. It's like, why didn't we just do a tag match with those two
Golden
against
Lovers, yeah.
Yeah, against Takeshita and Ospreay, you know.
Mm-hmm. Who invited Jericho to this Golden Lovers foray?
Oh man.
Also, Jack, there's a lot of guys that I cannot play as in AEW Fight Forever. I wish they would stop reminding me of that. Swerve isn't in it. You know, Eddie is. Shibata's not. Kenny is. Takesha's not. Sammy is. Koda's not.
Yeah, I definitely see a lot of people like talk about that as well. And again, that's why if you go back like to when the game was first dropping, you hear me mention to Mr. Solis, I don't think I'm gonna get it because it doesn't have a community creation option where if you aren't putting them in the game, at least let the fans put them in the game.
Well, if you shell out about $15 or $16, Jack, you can download Danhausen and Hook. Why weren't they a part of the game? I don't know.
I don't know at this point. But moving on, it was a good, trios match. But moving on, we got the tag titles on the line. FTR versus Aussie Open. Very interesting to see, especially because of like booking wise. I mean, it's just confusing, isn't it? Like, we just saw these guys lose to MJF and Adam Cole.
Yes.
We then saw them lose to Jericho and Sammy for no reason at all, other to advance their story. And now they're here challenging for the tag titles.
There is another pattern, Jack, that I will make note of at the end that is heartbreaking.
Yeah, so I was just very confused by it. I welcome the match. These are, Aussie Open is a great tag team, but like, I want some actual consistency, some actual like stuff that makes sense,
Yeah, Aussie Open, you didn't even win a 4-way tag match of people we're sick of seeing.
Yeah, Aussie Open, you didn't go on a 28 match win streak to earn this title match,
It surprised me how much bigger both men are in Aussie Open to FTR.
Oh, I definitely.
Mark Davis is a big guy. Kyle Fletcher is a tall guy, and I don't know what to make of it. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah. What'd you think of the overall match?
I was super into it. I told you in a text message, Jack, that I fell asleep, and you know what I mean? Like, I had a long night the night before, so I fell asleep and woke up to see the end of this match. So when I'm watching it, I know who's going to win, and I wish I didn't know. But I love spots like Mark Davis and Dax trading shots. They were really going into one another.
Yeah, I always like the matches where it's like you basically somewhat know, like, going into this, like, especially when it involves like those bruiser type character or wrestlers, like you always like know, like, going into it, like, you just think to yourselves, yeah, they were probably back there, like they came to a gentleman's agreement that they were gonna lay it in stiff, and that was the agreement. Like, a lot of people said the same thing about Ilya and Walter's matches, where they were like, yeah, before going into this match, they definitely agreed that, like, we're going to hit each other with our hardest stuff, so prepare yourself.
Yeah, and Mark Davis has a pretty mean senton, you know what I mean, that he hit multiple times.
Yeah, and I think there was even, like, a moment where he hit, like, this, like, clothesline, I want to say, that looked pretty tough. But, yeah, definitely really was into this match. Like I said, given the result of the tag match earlier in the night, I was very curious if Aussie Open was gonna get the win here, because it's like, well, that opens the door for an interesting first defense against the Young Bucks, but
right.
At the same time I was like, I just didn't know. I was like wondering how this match was gonna close out.
I agree.
I'm trying to remember any more spots. I know there was a spot where I think people were saying Mark Davis might have gotten injured, which is unfortunate luck for Aussie Open, because they've had to deal with quite a lot of injuries in the past
Specifically
year.
Mark Davis, and that was the pattern I was going to wait for you to reveal, Jack. He, seeing him reminds me of going back and watching a Will Ospreay match he had in March. I think he got injured from, right? That caused Kyle Fletcher to have to relinquish the tag titles they were holding. So that was this year, Jack. That was March.
Yeah.
And there may have even been one other time, but gosh, that guy can't catch a break.
Yeah, definitely can't. I noticed it too, and I was like, that's just pretty unfortunate luck. Like, I want to say Mark Davis might have even gotten injured, like, after the tag league, I want to say. Last year.
It's his wrist, right? And they're going to hit their double team at the end of the match. I saw it. I saw it twice. I saw it when I woke up from my nap, and then I saw it on my rewatch. But that move they get where they, like, got him up, we're going to slam him down.
Yeah.
Oh, he can't use his hand, so he's holding him up basically with his forearm.
Oof.
Like, it's as if it's like his hands are dirty and he needs to wash them, you know? Yeah, he's basically holding up whichever one of the FTR guys he was holding up with 1.5 hands.
Yeah, so
He definitely muscled through the rest of that match if you didn't notice his hand was broken.
yeah. But Aussie Open end up losing the match. FTR retain. We're moving on to FTR versus Young Bucks 4, and I am just not at all invested in the tag scene right now.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I just want to see more variety out of it, and I'll use this short moment to sort of call out a bit of the hypocrisy in the AEW fan base, because heading into this match, I saw a little bit of revisionist history, if you'll say.
Oh my.
I saw people posting about, like, the tag scene last year,
Yeah.
specifically highlighting Swerve and Our Glory's run.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And if you go back to any of the AEW episodes Mr. Solis and I covered, we thoroughly enjoyed that tag team. The fan base at the time was not. They took them for granted because they were all focused on wanting FTR to win these titles from the Young Bucks. And so they completely wrote off Swerve and Our Glory as champions. And, and it was like they were producing great matches during that time. And now, all of a sudden, because people aren't enjoying FTR's run as of late after, people enjoyed the Bullet Club Gold stuff, but afterwards it's like people have been kind of like, we're not enjoying it much. So now they're like doing this revisionist history where they're like, oh, we had it so great last year. You weren't appreciating it when it was happening last year.
To play devil's advocate, this time last year, if even it was last year, gosh, time anomaly. I know a lot of us were waiting with bated breath for the turn. And, like, those guys, like, you were like, oh, Swerve's going to definitely turn on Keith Lee. Wouldn't it be a trip if Keith Lee turned on Swerve? And, like, it seemed like the moment was right for that to happen. And then they won the titles. They're, like, fit a title reign in between the tease and the eventual breakup. You're like, wow, this is their duration as a team baffled me more than RK Bro.
Oh, man. But, yeah, I get that, too. And especially because I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, Team Taz is probably going to win these titles, and Swerve and Our Glory is going to break up, because that should only be a short-term thing. And then both teams broke up, and it left the division with 2 less tag teams.
Right. So, that's funny. Call them out. Say the thing. We saw you. It's documented.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I said, given if the Young Bucks challenge next, I don't mind FTR retaining just because, like, I'd rather them drop to someone new,
I want FTR to retain because Young Bucks are busy. They are Ring of Honor Trios Tag Team Champions. Dang it. Act like it.
Exactly. Like I said in the first episode, they could do the same thing they would do with the tag titles with those Trios titles with Hangman along with them.
Yep.
And obviously there's still more teams, hopefully, to challenge FTR that could present a more interesting option in my eyes, at least. But who knows? our opinions might not matter in the grand scheme of things.
Hey, you know who would be a great tag team? How about Luchasaurus and Christian Cage, who walk out together for the main event? It's Christian Cage defending the TNT Championship in a 2 out of 3 falls match against Darby Allin, who I think would make a formidable tag team with his best friend, Nick Wayne, who comes out with him and wishes him luck.
Yeah, and I'll say after watching this match, I will never complain about back pain ever again.
Oh my!
My goodness, the amount of spots that happened in this match where I was just like, oh, Darby, I wish you weren't as, what's the word I want to use? I wish you weren't doing this for the love of the game as much as you have been doing.
I wish you weren't so willing to make the sacrifices that you do.
Yeah, definitely. I was just like, oh, man. How are you putting yourself through this?
Whose back hurts more? Is it Darby Allin or Christian Cage's for carrying this feud?
Oh, man. But, yeah, definitely was a very brutal match. A lot of those spots with the steel steps, I was just like, my goodness. Can't believe it. You're doing a lot of that, you know?
To illustrate it for the listener, you know, we've seen a lot of spots with the stairs. You can drop them like Hangman did. What is it? What is his move? The dead shot?
Yeah.
Dead eye?
The dead eye.
Head first into the top. Sure. We can slam somebody on the side. Sure. But Christian Cage goes, I'm going to get this guy who I never put it together, Jack. Darby Allin's like a modern day Rey Mysterio, the way that Christian Cage was throwing him around. He literally threw him so that, you know what it was? It was a spot we've seen Kevin Owens do too. It's like, hey, throw me so that I'm perpendicular to the stairs. So that my head, my back, my legs all hit the top of the corners of each of those stairs.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Absolutely brutal stuff.
Brutal.
But other than those spots, I mean, we saw the interesting story beat of, you know, Darby getting the first pinfall and, you know, seeing Christian Cage be all like antsy about it and like, you know, worried that he's gonna lose this title.
Yeah, which made him, you know, go stare crazy.
Yeah.
They look like they're going to stretcher Darby Allin out. And what does Christian Cage do? Actually, he's like busy dismantling the ring for some reason. But when he's done and they got Darby Allin strapped to that stretcher, it's a frog splash from the top rope to the ground.
Yeah, I thought that was absolutely crazy. And I found it interesting that someone, like, I'm glad I saw this, like, someone mentioned it afterwards. They really liked the sort of story element of this match being that, like, Darby was out wrestling Christian Cage, you know, for like the most part of it, you know, and so it's like he could have easily gotten the win at multiple points, but you know, Christian Cage being the guy that he is, found ways to, you know, weasel out of it and like use things to the best of his advantage to get, you know, get pinfalls on Darby.
I also like the package hyping up Darby, like really appreciating the main event in his hometown, right? And naming that the TNT Championship's the only time he felt validated, right? Like it really put a lot of like value in the TNT Championship. Because I'll tell you what, Jack, I was pretty surprised that like this one was main eventing. It doesn't dawn on me. I'm like, oh wait, we're in Seattle. Aha, of course.
Yeah.
But I think all of the like heat that Christian's been getting, you know, really I think justifies this match's place on the card. Post-match shenanigans notwithstanding.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, they take out a bunch of the padding on the ring. They expose the wood. So we see a spot where Darby Allin's locked into a scorpion deathlock, you know, but he makes it to the rope. We see him hit a coffin drop, but it's not enough for the win. And then, you know, for whatever reason at all, no reason at all, we see Christian go to hit the spear of all moves that, you know, takes out the ref when Darby Allin moves out the way.
I think he's used it before. I think he's borrowed it from his, you know, the various people who have supported him along the way. But yes, ref bump. So get the chairs.
Yeah. Well, first he hits him with the low blow, and he goes to grab the title belt, and that's when Nick Wayne comes out. He takes the belt. It leads to this standoff.
Oh yes.
And to mention, throughout the match, Christian Cage has been antagonizing Nick Wayne's mom, who's at ringside.
Nick Wayne's very young-looking mom.
Yeah, and so we get this point where Nick Wayne has the title. He looks like he's about to hit Christian Cage, and then he hits Darby Allin with the belt.
Did you see it coming, Jack?
I saw people mention it like that, like they could see a turn happening, but I wasn't expecting it here, I guess.
I thought it was going to happen, and I thought Nick Wayne's mom was going to play a bigger role in it. But kudos to her. She sold it like Nick Wayne shot Darby Allin. She was so animated.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty great, from her. And after that, that's the end of the match. That gets the pinfall for Christian Cage to win. And then they start beating up on Darby Allin. That's when Sting comes out. And he starts going after Christian Cage and Nick Wayne. But Luchasaurus comes to arrive. They're beating up on Sting. Sir, it's a 3-on-2 disadvantage for Sting and Darby Allin. They're getting beat up. And that's when Christian Cage goes to get the chairs. He wants to hit a concerto on Sting. Sir. And it's just such a tragic ending to this pay-per-view, huh?
Dang, the villains win. Too bad Darby Allin and Sting don't have one more friend, or at least somebody with a intrinsic motivation to interfere in Christian's shenanigans. It's not like Christian doesn't have just a whole closet full of ghosts who can make an appearance. Maybe even a ghost whose recent WWE contract expired.
Yeah, and thank goodness AEW, they don't want us to see the horror of Sting eating a concerto, so they end the feed right there. The screen goes black, and that's the end of the show, right, sir?
That's it. We got the Bleacher Report little message. Thanks for watching. But wait a minute, Jack. Our feature presentation, there's this really nice stylized graphic of the beginning of a B movie, you know what I mean? What's his name? What's the actor? What's the director's name? Anyway, you got this neat grainy film thing happening. This guy in a leather jacket. He's making his way to his car. He's driving down the road. What does that road say, Jack? That doesn't say stop. What does it say? What does it say?
I don't think I caught that.
Oh, it says rated R, Jack, right off the street as he's making his way to the arena.
And you see the fireworks going off.
Yeah. And then, Jack, we all hear maybe the greatest thing in wrestling theme music history. You think you know him.
Yeah. You hear it. You hear his WWE theme song. It's the rated R superstar Edge, now known by his real name, Adam Copeland, showing up in AEW.
And doing the old classic Jeff Hardy approach to saving somebody, posing and celebrating and posing with the fireworks on his way to the ring.
Yeah, make sure you get the pyro shot.
Yeah. Give me a moment to soak this all in. We're fine. He's not going to do anything. And it's, what's funny? I picture Christian Cage being somebody like me on a video game waiting for the cutscene to end. I'm like, I hate how long this cutscene is and I can't skip it.
Oh, man. But, yep, he shows up. He immediately gets in front of Christian and he grabs a chair like, he's going to be the one that wants to do this to Sting. And Christian Cage just stands there and he lets him. And he uses the chair to hit Nick Wayne. He throws it at Luchasaurus. And unlike the Royal Rumble 2020, they get his first spear back on camera.
And spear onto the chair.
Yeah, and
I thought it was such a fluid attack. The swing on Nick Wayne sounded perfect, and he throws it like Sabu at Luchasaurus's face. And then he doesn't hit the spear, Jack. He runs to the ropes to kind of get that rebound off the ropes to hit the spear. And I don't know. like that sequence of events was so good.
Yeah, I was a bit worried because, the padding wasn't there. I'm like, I don't know if you want Edge doing this on the wooden part, given his...
Edge is laughing, going, I don't take the bump.
Oh, man, but yeah, I was a bit worried. But yeah, he did that perfectly. He takes out Nick Wayne as well. And you just see him staring down Christian. And then, of course, it ends with him helping up Darby Allin and Sting.
Yeah. And he helps up Darby Allin and Sting. Christian does the nefarious thing of leaving his lackeys to die. Yeah. Did you see this, Jack? In the ring, Edge and Christian are face to face. The crowd is going, this is awesome. But I don't know if you see it. Christian Cage's hair is all jacked up. He's holding that title, clinging it to dear life, and you can read his lips. He goes, what do you want? And it was just so funny, like real quiet, but his lips are so clearly asking, what do you want?
Oh, man, yeah. I just found that funny. And it's just surreal to see, I was telling my dad, I'm like, it's just surreal to see because it's like, how long he was with WWE. You never saw him anywhere else, for the most part.
Yeah. And, his media scrum, he said, WWE just sort of, didn't have anything more for me to do. And he still wants to do a lot, right? So this is an opportunity to do a lot. And isn't it the day to see, Jack? I saw these people online get real cynical and go, hey, it must have been real easy to let go of CM Punk if you got this in your back pocket.
No lie. And then, oh man, it was just so funny to see people, for whatever reason, turning on Edge for simply going to another company. I was like, man, you people would not have survived, the attitude there. Obviously, I wasn't there for it, but, you wouldn't have survived seeing all those guys jumping ship, to different places.
Oh, my. Yeah, it was a thing to do. I heard this really sweet story of, Edge talking to the folks and saying, hey, I'm not those kind of old guys that talk about back in my day. And Darby Allin goes, you did spears through flaming tables. I might be inclined to want to hear about back in your day.
Oh, man. But it's very exciting, the prospect of him being in a new company, different guys to face, and just to, make sure that no one thinks you and I are being hypocritical. Let's just hope he doesn't do any of the early Judgment Day stuff here in AEW.
You mean take himself too seriously and want to reinvent himself and make him the focal point of some, he's going to be the focal point, I guess, of this, I think he did a really smart thing to go right after Christian. You know what I mean? We got a good old-fashioned Edge versus Christian feud. Darby Allin hopefully comes out looking good. His first match is going to be against Luchasaurus next week.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see,
Yeah.
Definitely interesting to see what he does, especially given, if you look back through our episodes covering his second run in WWE, we were like, some of the stuff is good, some of the stuff, it's either, a bit too long or, like you said, taking himself a bit too seriously with certain roles, but, here's something new, so
yeah,
interesting to see what the approach is.
Can't wait for Beth Phoenix to show up and for him and Adam Cole and Britt Baker have that really awkward, we're both married people feud, right? He's going to tell Adam Cole, you don't get it, you want things handed to you. He's going to do that. Really looking forward to that.
But it's definitely interesting. Closes out a great night of wrestling.
It was a good night of wrestling. A very good, there's at least 2 matches, Jack, I'm going to strongly consider in my top 10 matches, which, Jack, we're going to talk about in 3 months.
Yeah, very soon. Very soon. It's going to be real fun. Got a lot of matches to consider. I'm going to try and dial back on the Stardom for all the listeners who, just
Jack, you know what I made for you that I'm very excited to share with you once it's done?
Huh.
I'll tell you right now, I literally made a top 10 match list of just Will Ospreay 2023.
Oh, man. But with that being said, thank you all for joining us for these 2 episodes. I've been Jack, joined by my guest,
Mr. Solis.
We'll catch you all next week as Fastlane approaches very soon this weekend. But until then, thank you all for joining for these episodes, and we'll catch you all on the next one.